Yeah. Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to Jesus Revolution Online. Yeah, another week. Amen. And today, I want to tell you some, call it stories from the old neighborhood. I just have these stories in my, during the week, just kind of pop into my head kind of thing. I thought, well, that's what I'll preach about, kind of. They all connect spiritually, so, you know, it's going to be good. If you want to open your Bible, you can open it up to Ephesians 1:18. That's the only verse. Well, we have a few other verses too, but that's our main verse. And the first story I want to tell you about is the bee story. It's about bees. See, there was me and my friends were kind of hanging out one day, and we were kind of, let's say we were spoiling for a fight kind of thing, you know, a bunch of guys, we just wanted to fight something, so we decided we wanted to get in a fight with the big kids in the neighborhood, because we like to fight with them, or, you know, start a fight with them. Anyways, so we wanted to attack these, because it's no good, you know, fighting pygmies, you know, it's no good picking on the little kids in the neighborhood, you know, you get a bad reputation, there's no glory in that, you know, so we wanted to take on the big kids in the neighborhood, and it was fall, so we couldn't have a snowball fight, so we decided we would have an acorn fight. So we decided that this one big kid had an oak tree in his yard, so we decided we would go from my yard, cut through this other yard, jump over a fence into his yard, and then we would like pick up the acorns and start throwing them at him as they're just sitting around like old boys do, hanging out, you know, at his house. We would like surprise them and attack them with some acorns. So we were walking through that yard, the yard next to my yard, and there'd be this old tree there that a branch had fallen down, a branch that had a bee's nest on it, and it fell down. We didn't know it, so we're traipsing through this yard, and all of a sudden one of the guys, I'll call him Fred, stepped on the bee's nest. So immediately, bees are everywhere. We're like going crazy. And they just took off home. Fred and this other guy called Bill, I'll call Bill, took off because they were like right next to each other. Now me and my other friend Paul, we went back into my yard and we escaped. And we were just like rolling on my lawn, laughing hysterically because, you know, they're running home, you know. And it was just a great time. We're laughing because we had escaped from these bees, and, you know, we're just what guys do. We laugh at bad things happen to our friends, you know. So we're sitting there laughing, and we're just kicking back, and all of a sudden I see there's a bee, this one rogue bee comes flying and stings Paul right above his eye, in which I laughed even more, you know. So then he's all crying and everything. So we were like, oh man, oh, this is crazy, you know. So we went to, we see our fallen comrades, you know, see what happened, you know. We forgot about the whole acorn fight thing. It's like, well, now it's all about the bees, you know. So we go over to Fred's house, and like the bees had chased him all the way home. He lived like 2 blocks away, and they chased him all the way home, and they had like impaled themselves on the screen door. Like he ran in the house and closed the screen door, and all these bees came, and like they were all stuck to the screen door. And the same thing happened to Bill, and they had like bees because they were, you know, they stepped on it, and the bees like went up their pant legs and all over the place. They were stung like 15, 20 times. And I was like, you know, thinking, oh, this is crazy. And I thought of this today, and or not today, but this week, because I was on Facebook on my sister-in-law's page, and she said, this is a couple weeks ago, she said her sons, my nephews, had been, you know, attacked by like 8 or 9 bees. And I thought, that's strange. Why did that happen? I mean, because I had escaped. I mean, the great, you know, I had made this great escape, and it just, in my head, it was just like, they shouldn't have been attacked by bees. I mean, I don't know, somehow I thought they had like, I thought this generational thing, you know, that I had escaped the bees, and that they should, as, you know, heirs of me, not have problems with bees. Now, I get stung every once in a while, but I've never been like attacked by a bunch of bees. But I don't know why I thought that, but it did. It somehow in my psyche there is something in there that says, I'm not going to be attacked by a bunch of bees, and either shall all my, descendants, Which brought me to the point of the sermon is we have an inheritance. Some things are just not right for a child of God to go through. There are just some things. And we should have it in our psyche that when, somebody gets sick or something, it's like, no, you have a right to be healthy. We have a right to live our life healthy. Children of Israel, when it says, when they left Egypt, none were lame or sick among them. So they're wandering around the wilderness. They're not getting sick or anything. Their shoes aren't wearing out. Now, sin caused a problem. Whenever they sinned, they got sick and died. They got rebellious. Think about this. All the ones that were grumbling and complaining died in the wilderness. So, think about your words. All of them, they got slain. But they had divine help. Because God said, it's kind of like when Jesus said, let's go over to the other side. God said, I'm going to take you from Egypt to the promised land. The wilderness wasn't actually his plan. That was their plan. Or, what happened when they did. But God told them to go into the wilderness. And he said, you're all going to make it. So he gave them divine help. They had it. So we should be able to have it since we have a better covenant than they had. They had a covenant of law. We have a covenant of grace. And we have a covenant that Jesus... Think about this. I was thinking about this earlier as I was preaching to myself in my truck. Think about Jesus and the disciples, and they're going somewhere. And all of a sudden, one of them comes in and says, oh, Peter's not here. Where's he at? Oh, he's home sick. He called in sick today. He's like, what would Jesus do? Jesus would be like, what? Just go heal him and get him, just go get him. Just go heal him. And you tell him to be here because we got to get on the boat to Capernaum, It's like, I'm not going to miss the boat because you're sick. The disciples didn't get sick. I'm sure that when they were with Jesus, they were not sick. None of them. I remember Reverend Hagen was talking about, he had when he'd go preaching back in the day, you just didn't get in a plane, fly to a town, preach, and then come back. You had to go off for like 6 to 8 weeks on a tour preaching around. This is back in the 40s and the 50s. And he had one of his friends that were with him had diabetes. But his anointing of healing and health was so strong that while this guy was traveling with them, he never had to check he didn't have diabetes. He didn't. He's like, that's not going to happen. Because it's not going to happen. It was his anointing kept it from him. Now after he left him, after a couple of weeks it came back because this guy couldn't keep his healing. But it's part of our inheritance. We shouldn't be unhealthy. And it goes to my verse here, Ephesians 1:18 said, for the eyes of your heart, this is Paul like praying, that you may know what is the hope of his calling, what is the riches of the glories of his inheritance in the saints. Or what is the value that God puts upon us? What are we living by the streets of gold, or are we living on Wall Street? If the economy goes south, are we going to be carried with the economy, or are we going to be carried with the head? Or do we have a walk in a heavenly vision? What do we have here? And I got a definition of salvation. It's strange that in the Hebrew the word is Yeshua, kind of like Jesus. Because Jesus means the Lord is my salvation. And the definition is something that is saved, that is deliverance. It contains deliverance, aid, victory, prosperity, health, help, and welfare. All in that word. That's like a pregnant word. This big word. When you say, I got saved, that means I got prosperity, health, healing, deliverance, whatever. It's all in that word, and you have a right to that. Now, you may not walk in that. These things, I remember Pastor Hood said, salvation is kind of like a seed that you get in your spirit, and it's kind of like the enfolding of the mystery of God.